Hari Hari. This is the story of Queen Satyabhama, part 2. So the queens of Krishna are Rukmini, incarnation of Lakshmi Devi; Jambavati, the daughter of Jambavan from Ramayana; Satyabhama, the daughter of King Satrajit; Kalindi, who's incarnation of Yamuna Devi; Mitravinda, Nagnajiti, also called Satya. She is an incarnation of Neela Devi. Yes, and Satyabhama, of course, is the incarnation of Bhumi Devi. Then there's Bhadra and Lakshmana. The main characters of this story: King Satrajit, of course, the father of Queen Satyabhama. Shamantaka Jewel features prominently, of course. Sri Jiva Goswami is the Vaishnav scholar who gives commentary on the reasons why Kritavarma and Akrura, who were both Vaishnavas, got involved in a murder plot. Shatadhanva is the conspirator who arranged and put together the murder plot and actually murdered King Satrajit. Kritavarma is mentioned, Vaishnava, but a fairly weak-minded Vaishnava. Spent a lot of time in the association of Kamsa, even though he was a Vaishnava. He's known to be quite a weak-minded person and always ends up in all kinds of unfortunate schemes and plots and conspiracies. He's very easily manipulated by others. Then Akrura, the famous person who brought Krishna from Vrindavan to Mathura under Kamsa's orders. Narakasura, son of Bhumi Devi, and is a demon that Krishna and Satyabhama have to fight later on. Tulabharam is the story that originates in the teachings and the writings in Orissa. It's a wonderful story, very nice story, but it's found in the literatures of Orissa, and it's not found in the major Vaishnava Puranas and literature. But it's a wonderful story in itself. So Satyabhama has gone to Hastinapur. Krishna, Balaram, a whole contingency of Yadavas are in Hastinapur because they're attending the funeral of the 5 Pandavas in Kunti, right? Because this is just after Varanavat, where the entire world has just found out that the Pandavas have burned to death in the house, the palace at Varanavat. So the entire country, all of Bharat, is there in Hastinapur for the funeral. Krishna and Balaram, the Yadavas, are there as well. So Satyabhama, she has arranged for her father, her murdered father, King Satrajit, to be preserved because she wants Krishna to see how brutally he was murdered. Oh, and his children are listening to this, so I'll keep this the Disney version. So Satyabhama, she goes to Hastinapur. She takes a contingent of soldiers and bodyguards, and she goes to Hastinapur to tell Krishna. So she arrives in Hastinapur, and she goes to where Krishna is staying, the palace where Krishna is staying, and she tells everything to Krishna. And Krishna is completely overwhelmed with sorrow. He had an affection and an appreciation for his father-in-law, and he also, with Satyabhama, began to cry and lament the fact that his father-in-law was brutally murdered in this way. So immediately, Krishna and Balaram, along with Satyabhama, of course, they get on their chariots and they go head straight back to Dwaraka. When they arrive in Dwaraka, Shatadhanva, he hears that Krishna has been brought back from Hastinapur by Satyabhama, and he's looking for Shatadhanva. So when Shatadhanva's people come and they come running to him telling him, you better get out of here because Krishna's arrived and he's coming after you. Shatadhanva, obviously, total fear from Krishna, he he races to Kritavarma's place, Kritavarma's palace. And he says, my dear Kritavarma, you got to help me. You got to protect me from Krishna. Kritavarma, as mentioned, he is a weak-minded person, but he's a powerful, powerful Kshatriya, warrior. So Shatadhanva going to Kritavarma makes sense because Kritavarma is one of the main commanders of the Yadava army, one of the most prominent commanders of the Yadava army. So Shatadhanva is trying to get him on his side. And Kritavarma, weak-minded though he may be, and as easily as it is for him to be manipulated by others, he is a Vaishnava. And he says, my dear Shatadhanva, I only got involved in this whole scheme because I really did think the Shamantaka jewel should be given to Krishna and handed over to Ugrasena and like that. I didn't think that Satyajit should have kept it for himself. But you have now gone too far. You've murdered Krishna's father-in-law. I can't help you. I mean, Krishna has killed Kamsa, not even Jarasandha. And Jarasandha, we all know, is an extraordinarily powerful king of the time. Kritavarma says, not even Jarasandha. Jarasandha tried to defeat Krishna 17 times and failed all 17 times. There's no possible way I can help you. And Shatadhanva, realizing there was no help to be found from Kritavarma, he takes off and he goes to Akrura's palace. And he says, Akrura, please, you've got to help me. You were in on this plot. And Akrura says, I'm sorry, no, I agree that yes, the jewel, Shamantaka jewel, should be turned over to Ugrasena, to the kingdom, for the benefit of all people. And Satyajit handled it very wrongly. But this is murdering Krishna's father-in-law. That was not part of where I wanted to get involved. So not only that, I can't help you. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He, at the age of 7 years old, and this is the example Akrura gave, he says when Krishna was 7 years old, he lifted Govardhan Hill. Imagine what he can do now. There's no place you can go that's going to protect you from Krishna. It is interesting how neither Kritavarma and Akrura never told Shatadhanva to surrender to Krishna, be that as it may. Shatadhanva realizes there is no help to be found from either Kritavarma or Akrura. He takes off, gets on a horse, and he takes off trying to escape from Dwarka. Krishna and Balaram, they're now scouring the city looking for Shatadhanva. And he gets word that Shatadhanva has fled the city on horse and has taken off. So Krishna and Balaram, they get on their chariot and they take off after Shatadhanva. And Shatadhanva, he's riding hard and fast, non-stop. He's riding so hard, in fact, that the horse upon which he's riding dies. Shatadhanva actually rides the horse to death. It just goes to show what kind of personality he is. Anyway, the horse dies right beneath him. He jumps off the horse and continues trying to run away from Krishna. Now, of course, in Dhanurveda Yuddha Dharma, the Kshatriya Dharma, when you engage in warfare and fighting, you have to always make sure you do not. The battle has to be between equals. It has to be an equal opportunity for a person to defend themselves when engaging in fighting. Sneak attacks and things like that is not something, is considered adharmic in Kshatriya rules of warfare and fighting. So when Shatadhanva gets off his horse and is on foot, Krishna and Balaram also, abiding by the rules of war, have to get off horse. They cannot be mobile. So they get off their chariots and they start to chase Shatadhanva on foot to even the odds and give Shatadhanva the opportunity to defend himself. He doesn't. Krishna, using his Shudarshan chakra, decapitates him. And they try to look for where, if Shatadhanva has the Shamantaka jewel. There's no jewel on Shatadhanva's body. Krishna and Balaram could not find it. So Balaram says, well, Krishna, you're going to have to find the Shamantaka jewel because now not only did Shatadhanva commit murder, it's very important that we find that jewel and reinstate that jewel, return that jewel. Krishna says, yes, you're absolutely right. So Krishna got on the chariot, was going to head back to Dwarka. And Balaram says, well, we have arrived here in Mithila. So the chase, Shatadhanva had taken off, and he had ridden so far and so hard that he arrived in a kingdom called Mithila. And the king of this particular kingdom was actually Janaka. Now, of course, this is not the Janaka from Ramayana. And the city Mithila, is not quite sure. I've done some research whether it's the same Mithila from Ramayana, just many generations later, or it's just a city named after the original Mithila. I don't know. But anyways, the name of this particular city was Mithila. And the king, his name was also Janaka, not the Janaka of Ramayana. So Balaram says, we are here in Mithila. Janaka is a very good friend of mine. I would like to spend some time here. You go back to Dwarka, and the first thing you do is you have to find the Shamantaka jewel. So Balaram stays in Mithila, and he stays in Mithila actually for several years. And it is actually during this time that Duryodhan goes from Hastinapur, he travels to Mithila, and he learns how to fight with a club from Balaram. Balaram is the premier warrior in terms of fighting with a club. So Duryodhan goes to Balaram, and he stays with Lord Balaram in Mithila, where he learned from Lord Balaram how to fight with a club. So Krishna returned back to Dwaraka, and he returns back to his palace, and Satyabhama is there, and he helps to make arrangements for the funeral ceremony of his father-in-law, King Satyajit, and he takes care of the grieving his wife, tries to console her as much as he can, Queen Satyabhama. But there's a problem. No one knows where the jewel is, the Shamantaka jewel. We'll cover that in part number 3. Hari Hari.